95% of what's going on with you is subconscious. How do you change that? Or can you? You can. And I tell you about it in my new book, Love the One You're With. I'm Lee Ellis, and you're about to hear a sample from Chapter 9, Healing on a Deeper Level.
Chapter 9, Healing on a Deeper Level. Too many of us are not living our dreams because we are living our fears. Les Brown. Tammy's life and marriage was looking up because she started focusing on the positive aspects of her husband and her marriage. She had a daily meditation practice, was spending more time with her friend Elizabeth, and was taking better care of her body by exercising. She was feeling much more optimistic about Chad and staying in her marriage. But Tammy still felt fear when she thought about staying with Chad forever, and she felt fear when she thought about leaving him. She just couldn't make sense of where these feelings were coming from. Subconscious beliefs could be sabotaging your marriage. Tammy came to see me because she wanted to understand where these feelings originated and how to change them. The first thing I did was have Tammy muscle test. I want to have a happy, healthy marriage. Tammy thought that was kind of silly because of course she wanted a happy, healthy marriage, but she was surprised to find that she got a no when muscle testing that belief. Since Tammy wanted to stay married to Chad consciously, she wanted me to help her figure out why she had that subconscious belief. I tapped into a past life where Tammy had been married and had 10 children. In that life, her husband abandoned her and left her to raise 10 children on her own. She discovered that she had several beliefs that were created in that life, such as, if I have children, I will be abandoned and left to raise them by myself, and marriages create pain and hardship. When I helped Tammy release these beliefs, I replaced them with beliefs such as, marriage is safe, and husbands are kind, loving, and supportive. I know you consciously want to have a happy and healthy marriage, otherwise you wouldn't be reading this book. But you have to remember that your subconscious mind is here to protect you and is not able to process information like your conscious mind does. Suppose you take the words happy and healthy out of the statement, I want to have a healthy and happy marriage, and think of what bad things could happen if you stay in any marriage for the rest of your life. This might seem counterintuitive, so let me give you some examples. From your subconscious mind's perspective, if you stay married for the rest of your life, you could lose a sense of who you are as an independent person. You could have the belief that you have to sacrifice who you are or change who you are in order to stay married. You could believe that your partner will end up cheating on you, abusing you, or abandoning and rejecting you. You could believe that you will become bored and never have an exciting sex life again. You could fear that your partner will get sick and you will have to become a caretaker. These beliefs are just a sample of the hundreds of beliefs I have discovered in my clients. Deep emotional wounds trigger intense feelings. There are many different beliefs that could cause you to get a no when muscle testing. I want to have a happy, healthy marriage. You could make sense of some of them based on your past experiences, and some of these beliefs can come from your ancestors, your past lives, or the collective consciousness. Remember my client Susie, who had the beliefs that all men are abusive and I deserve to be abused? She had those beliefs on a genetic level. That means she had the belief deeply embedded in her subconscious mind, yet nothing had ever happened in this life that would have created those beliefs. A term that therapists use very often with clients is trigger. If your sister called you fat when you were a child and it upset you, someone calling you fat today could trigger that feeling from when you were a child. That is why you sometimes have what you might consider an overreaction to certain things. You are not aware of it, but it is triggering something deeper. This is also true if you have a genetic or past life trauma. Many psychotherapists believe that gaining insight into what is being triggered from childhood can make the trigger lose its power or even disappear. For example, let's say you find out that the reason you get so angry when your partner disagrees with you is because it is triggering the way you felt when your father yelled at you when you were a child. Maybe your dad always had to be right and never let you have an opinion. So a psychotherapist might say that you can see your partner as not your dad, understand what is getting triggered when your partner disagrees with you, and decide not to let it upset you anymore. This could help you for sure, but I find that it is too much work because you have to use your conscious mind to do it, when 95% of what is being triggered is actually subconscious. Also, I have found that just because you can sometimes find the trigger in this life, the likelihood that you don't also have something being triggered from a past life or on a genetic level is very slim. Why traditional therapy is so hard. As I mentioned in Chapter 2, I was trained in a few different evidence-based interventions early in my career. One of these was cognitive behavioral therapy, where you become aware of the thoughts that are making you unhappy and you change them to better feeling thoughts. I've been talking about this concept throughout the book because it does change the way you feel, and it helps you create anything you want because of the law of attraction. Changing your thoughts, which changes the way you feel, can absolutely change your life. But I have found that for myself and some of my clients, it is hard to do. One explanation for why it can be hard is because you have to do it with your conscious mind. Did I mention that you are only functioning 5% out of your conscious mind? The other 95% is completely working against you, and guess which one normally wins? When I was trained in all of those interventions, I was working for a PhD psychologist on a few different research studies. We recorded all of the sessions and watched them in supervision, and there was absolutely no way to deviate from the manual. I value that time because I learned so much about being a therapist, but I very much felt like I was in a box. I had a yearning to help people on a deeper level. Traditional therapy with a kick. After the research studies ended, I had a job where I had the freedom to adopt a more eclectic view of therapy. I had been studying the law of attraction and realized how much it was in alignment with cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. So I didn't want to throw out the intervention completely. I started teaching clients EFT, or tapping in conjunction with the CBT. So we would focus on a thought that was upsetting, tap on it, and the emotion behind the thought would completely disappear. This made changing the thoughts easy for most of my clients. Try tapping out something that irritates you about your husband or wife and see if it makes it easier to see the situation differently. Energy healing quickly changes subconscious beliefs. At the same time that I was helping my clients change their thoughts with the help of tapping, I was exploring other types of energy healing techniques to use on myself. I started listening to teleconferences on how to make the law of attraction work more easily, and I bought several packages in order to explore different techniques. When my husband and I got married, he moved into my house with his dog. I already had 2 dogs and I am a dog person, so I welcomed another dog. However, over time I noticed that his dog triggered anger in me. I tried to make sense of it by saying she had some annoying habits, but the anger I felt seemed to be triggering something I was not aware of from this lifetime. In one of the programs I purchased, there was a trauma clearing. Since I didn't know what this was triggering for me, I decided to muscle test. I have past life trauma that is being triggered by my husband's dog. I got a yes, so I decided to experiment and go through the trauma clearing, even though I didn't know what the trauma was at the time. To my amazement and surprise, my anger toward the dog completely vanished. The trauma clearing worked so well, it made me want to learn more. It seems like a small thing, and honestly, I'm embarrassed to admit I felt that way about a sweet little dog, but it was a big thing for me given the fact that she was living in my house. I was also extremely intrigued that I didn't even have to know the specific trauma for it to completely disappear. It's literally like deleting it from a hard drive. I flew out to Colorado to learn the technique myself with the complete intention of only using it for self-healing. Honestly, I didn't really think I would be able to learn it, and it just seemed too good to be true. But I did learn how to clear beliefs, traumas, and fears. I felt like I had acquired a magic wand. Not using the magic wand proved to be difficult, actually impossible when I returned to my clients. I don't know if you read this in my bio or somewhere else, but I live in Arkansas. Arkansas is a very conservative state that is in the Bible Belt. A therapist using energy techniques intertwined with regular therapy didn't go over very well in the agency where I was working. They literally told me I was not allowed to do it. But as I mentioned in Chapter 2, my clients were loving it and it was changing people's lives dramatically and fast. It was apparent that the next logical step for me was to go into private practice. I have been amazed and surprised at how many people have been interested and open to exploring and experiencing these alternative methods. It is my passion to help people heal at a much deeper level than they ever imagined possible. I have explored several different healing techniques, which I continue to use in my practice. I have also developed my own healing technique, and I am excited to share with you. The process. Let's say you have the belief that you are not worthy or deserving of having a healthy marriage. On a side note, you would muscle test, I am worthy and deserving of having a healthy marriage, because your subconscious mind does not understand negatives. If you get a no to that statement, then you believe you are not worthy or deserving of a healthy marriage. Using my technique, I would go in and delete that belief, all trauma associated with it, all of the fear, and any other negative feeling. I would do this through your entire life, your past lives, your genetics, the collective consciousness, and through your future and concurrent lives. Then I would release any oaths, vows, contracts, promises, obligations, commitments, debts, or liabilities related to it. I will explain this one in a minute. I would put you in the energy of forgiveness, forgiving anyone who hurt you related to any of this, and anyone who you blamed for it, including yourself. I release any guilt, shame, anger, hatred, resentment, and any other feeling that comes up. Then I download the opposite belief into your subconscious, just like you would download something onto the hard drive of your computer. I know, sounds too good to be true, but it works. I then ask you to get into the energy of knowing that you can be, do, or have anything you want, and I have you visualize life the way you want it. I know the description of everything I clear is a lot, but that is why it will completely change your life. You don't have to remember any of it or even understand it for it to work. You just have to give the practitioner your permission to do the healing. Let me explain the part about oaths, vows, contracts, promises, obligations, commitments, debts, and liabilities. I had a client named Judy who had been in an abusive marriage. She had dated a few men since her divorce, but couldn't seem to find anyone who she connected with enough to get married again. When we started digging, we discovered that she made a vow to never get married again. Our thoughts and words are very powerful. We say things like this all the time, but what we don't realize is that our subconscious mind is listening and recording everything. If you say you vow to never let that happen to you again, your subconscious could put a vow in place in order to protect you. Judy's vow was sabotaging her chances of meeting a healthy man who she would consider marrying. Just think about how many oaths, vows, contracts, promises, obligations, commitments, debts, and liabilities you have from past lives that you are unaware of. Forgiveness is for you. I also feel compelled to talk a little bit about forgiveness. I had a client named Kim whose father left her mother when she was 10 years old for another woman, and she had little to no contact with him after he left. Kim had a lot of work to do regarding abandonment and beliefs about men and marriage, but she was also holding on to intense anger. I asked Kim if she was ready to forgive her father for abandoning the family, and the answer was a big no. But what Kim needed to know, and what I want you to understand, is that holding on to anger and not forgiving someone is only hurting you. Do you think Kim's father was hurt by the fact that she didn't forgive him? He hadn't talked to Kim in years. Who do you think it was actually hurting? Yes, it was Kim. Holding on to anger and resentment can literally make a person physically ill, but it most definitely means that it can get triggered in all sorts of situations. So do yourself a favor and decide to forgive people who have upset you. By the way, forgiving yourself for past mistakes is even more important. It's time to leave the past in the past, live in the present, and be eager to see what the future holds for you. Forgiving is really just releasing resistance to who you really are. Let go and see how freeing it can be.